Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm your host, Mary Roberts. I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant living and working outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I created this podcast to give CAAs across the nation a place to come together and awaken to our profession's unique ability to create a life by design rather than default. That process can start by simply listening and engaging with this podcast. By doing so, you're already changing what's possible for CAAs, for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so thankful you're here. Let's jump into this episode and see what we can do together. A big hello to all my anesthetist colleagues. This is your host and fellow CAA, Mary Jean. Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast and the newest episode of 5-ish Minutes of Mindfulness for the Busy CAA. In these episodes, I'm really wanting to offer new ideas, new ways of thinking about mindfulness, and just finding some new resources, sharing some new resources that I've come across that have landed well for me and my analytical anesthesia brain. You may connect with some of them you may just let pass and don't really impact you as much, but my hope is that we can all learn some new ways to feel good. So in this 5-ish Minutes of Mindfulness episode called Using Transition Moments, I will be describing a new and hopefully more accessible way to begin adding meaningful moments of mindfulness into your busy day without adding another thing on your already long to-do list. I am assuming, I guess, that you have a long to-do list. I love that I get to talk to people who I can assume do a lot of the same things that I do and live a life similar to me. And I think that is one of the reasons why this podcast is so important to me and can be so powerful in our community, because we can just talk frankly and openly about things that are generally true for CAAs, and having a long to-do list feels like one of those things. So I'm sure you have heard many experts recommend creating a morning and a nighttime routine that incorporates slowing down and resting and restoring yourself. And while this is true and something to build towards, I think, I found it really challenging when I was starting out, like 5-ish years ago, to feel accomplished with this morning routine if I didn't do a full 45-minute yoga and incense and herbal tea and, all the things. It was really hard for my analytical perfectionist brain to accept that truly just a few moments or a minute of calm attention to the present moment could really make any noticeable difference in my life. So while I was on my own quest to incorporate more mindfulness, rest, and restoration into my day, I heard one of my now favorite podcasters suggest switching the narrative from a longer, multi-step morning routine to simply incorporating mindfulness during your everyday transition moments. So these transition moments, as she described them, are maybe obviously the times between finishing the thing you were just doing and before the next thing you are about to do. So the tiny pocket of in-between time that usually passes unnoticed or unused. Some examples of transition moments in my life are my walk into the surgery center in the morning from the parking lot, my drive to work, which is a very long transition moment, and I like to use frequently. And my most frequently probably used transition moment is pulling into my garage after I get home. Once you begin to notice and find your own transition moments, it starts to feel like this well of free time in your highly scheduled life that you never knew you had. And you can use these everyday transition moments as cues to follow your heart's lead, as we discussed in episode 12 of this podcast, and take care of yourself first before you move on to your next thing. This concept of resting and recharging in transition moments has been wildly helpful in my life to start incorporating more moments of calm and slow and bring mindful attention to where I am, what I am doing, and why I am doing it. It usually quiets my brain for just a few seconds, which frankly just feels really good. There are many mindful practices that you can do in these transition moments, but I have found that I like to keep things really simple because they're such short periods of time generally. My 3 most common practices are, first, just sitting there in silence. If that doesn't feel right, I will just take a quiet moment and take in my surroundings, the sights and sounds and smells around me. And probably the most common practice I do is taking a mindful breath or 2 or 3. Really, I just listen to my body. I think it feels really calming and clearing to create some space with the breath between whatever I just left doing, whether it was my work as a CAA or dropping the kids off at school or a grocery run, and taking that moment before I transition into the next thing on my to-do list. So I encourage you to start looking around your everyday life and your everyday moments to see what your transition moments could be, and to start thinking about how you could use those free moments to allow yourself to take care of yourself, allow some rest and restoration into your life, possibly practice some mindfulness, and find new ways to feel good. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you feel encouraged to start reclaiming your own transition moments as a time for rest and restoration. Remember, you deserve to feel good behind the drape. Now, on to your next thing.